Welcome to Game Tactical Tuesday. We are joined today by Dan O'Halloran, and I was just explaining how I met Dan and talking about gratitude. So, yesterday I tuned in to Julia Lachey and Emmerich Peace on the excellent Color of Money podcast. And Julia was interviewing Unc, and Rob and I quote him all the time: relationships will take you places that money can't. So many of you have watched Matt Miali's appearance on Tactical Tuesday in November last year. It was excellent. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. I think he does one of the best jobs I've ever seen in encapsulating what it means to be a real estate agent. And Matt is how I know Dan. I was at a conference, the lead up conference that Jeff Glover hosts every year for brokerage owners and mega team owners. I get to sneak in the side door there, even though I'm not really a mega team owner of what we do here at Grid and leading these communities. I get to network with those folks on your behalf and bring some people back. And I got to listen to Matt and Dan just have a great conversation about the market, about their plans, about what they're doing for their community and for their teams. And just really hit it off with Dan. Really, Dan and his partner, is it Christina or Christine?
Christina. Yep.
And Christina have a really amazing business, have a life by design. And Dan's got a really, fascinating journey that he's gone over the last 20 years of, hey, I need to build a team to pour into my community. We're talking about data today because how do we lead people as fiduciaries? And I think maybe we'll get to talk a little bit about what Dan does in his community because it got me excited. Just some of the things he's been able to build and how he's been able to pour back in. It's one of those, what we all hope to do is how can I build a life where I don't have to change anything, right? I'm just that flywheel in the center and I pour into other people, right? And then when people need to transact, they naturally think of me because I'm adding value to their life naturally all the time. So, Dan, what made you get into real estate? You got started in '05, is that right?
Yeah. 2005. I was actually in the financial industry doing life insurance and trying financial planning, stuff like that. Wasn't ended up really not being a good culture fit for me. It was like we do script training and all that kind of stuff, but the my sales manager and the scripts and all that wasn't resonating with me the way I really wanted it to be, and I've always cared about people. So that's what kind of drew me into the insurance protection side of things. At the time, my dad was building houses up in the area where I work now, and he totally called me out. He's like, "You're miserable," and I was just like, "I am not. I'm so happy. I'm wearing a suit every day. I'm like, this is what I'm meant to do." And I was just like, I went home. I was like, "Oh, son of a bitch, he nailed me." So I started doing. He's like, "You should like, get into real estate and sell the houses that I'm building and all this stuff." I'm like, I don't know. I'll think about it. Very cocky about it. And then had like a talk with my wife, and we're talking about life and what we want to do. And I was totally miserable. I hated what I was doing. So um, then I, said, all right, fine, I'm in. And then we had a really fun conversation about what it could look like to get into real estate. And took the plunge and got licensed in '05. And I did not have success right away. It was actually pretty brutal. So got the license. We lived in 45 minutes away from where my dad was doing business. So I was doing real estate in reverse for like 8 years, driving 45 minutes to a community that I didn't live in, but trying to be like the local guy that knew everything that was going on and everything. So it was really, really hard. And then '07, my dad passed, and then the market crashed, and then it was just like this huge just hits. Um, so that was my ease into real estate. Was definitely one of pressure, stress, and not giving up. And it was a journey that I've actually like really appreciate because I think we all get to a place where we're prepared to be there. And it took some of this pressure to um, humble me to then grow and build what we've been able to build today and be surrounded by the right people in our lives to have fulfillment and enjoyment of life. So
Yeah, if you didn't live through '05 through '07 and the Great Recession, it was just a very interesting sort of like sky is falling moment on
yeah.
the inside. I mean, it was always it was a big shock for all of us, of course, that just lived through it. But on the inside, it was a pretty the world was changing, things went sideways. What I'd like to talk about is, you started your team in 2017. right? And then I think I'm going to work this in reverse. Like, why, when you say data, like using data to help clients, what are we talking about when we say data? Are you thinking charts? Is this stats? Is this like being an expert on the neighborhood, on buyer psychology? Like, what do you mean when you say data?
So data to me is a blend of market data, obviously. If we get to know your market, right? I've been tracking data, and we have. If you go to our website, like we're tracking stuff going back all the way to 2005. We just released our annual market reports for our region, so we can really get an in-depth history of trends that are happening in our community, in our location, as well as New Hampshire. But that's only a small piece of the pie. Like what we really dive into is the psychology and motivation behind the client we're working with, because to the core for me has always been helping people make really good decisions around real estate. And I honestly don't care whether they buy a house or don't buy a house. I want to know why they're doing it. And then we can structure things to fit within that plan of what they're wanting to do. Is that a short-term goal, long-term goal, investment, et cetera? Are they planning to retire in a certain amount of years? Because then we can craft how aggressive we are in negotiations or not aggressive, and really make sure it's a good fit for them and really be protective and look out for their needs. And again, like when I started our conversation, like I've always cared about people, and I like this decision making process. So we really like to dive into the data of what they're trying to do, and then back that with market data, and statistics, obviously, to give them confidence in the decision that they're making.
Fascinating, man. So like, and one of the things you shared is that you started this team because you felt like if I'm really going to serve clients, I need more leverage. I need to grow
Yeah.
more and not just do this on my own. Not that everyone here needs to start a team. Any folks on here are on a team. What specifically put you on that journey where like, hey, I'm going to need to grow if I want to serve these people?
Yeah, so there was a couple things. When I started in real estate, I was at a small brokerage for like 10 years. I closed. I went to another my first corporate brokerage for about a year. Culture wasn't great there. Then I went with another one that gave me a little more autonomy. So we have like our own physical brick and mortar office building that we own right on Main Street in town and stuff like that. But prior to that, it was starting the team, and I was like, I got an admin. She came and sat at my dining room table that I'm sitting at today, and that was how we started. And that year we sold a little over 50 properties together, just her and I. And she wasn't licensed or anything like that at the time. And so I was just hammering, but then you hit this capacity point of quality to the consumer and also quality in your life if you're running around with your head cut off all the time. There's a lot of people in our industry that I kind of call them the tornadoes, and they're always stressed out. They wear busy like a badge, and that never resonated well with me. We are the calm in people's tornado of life, right? We are the people that need to be really stable, helping them. They can vent, they can blow up, they can whatever, because they're going through one of the most stressful periods in their life outside of divorce and loss, right? And sometimes divorce is why we're talking to them. So
Yep.
there's a lot of things that we hats that we wear, and that is one of the biggest ones to me, is to be that calm guiding person in the middle of this transition. So when we what basically sold over 50 homes, my wife and I actually met in college and ran it was like the marketing association is how we met, and we were president and vice president, which is kind of hilarious that we now work together. But we basically I always wanted to work with her, and I thought we were very similar. So then I was like, well, let me build the business to a certain point so you can step away and join me, because she's just brilliant and her brain, I think, is way sharper than mine. And so she should probably be on this instead of me. But so I finally did that, and she joined in 2018. And then we started really trying to systematically build the company to have that support, that care, that leverage to have space. Because if you're dealing with too many people, you can only do so much. And there's only so many hours in the day. So as we got more human leverage, we were able to be a little more intentional in our interactions in the community with our clients, and the ways that we operate for our clients as well.
I saw a stat one time, Dan. It might have been Gary Keller that presented it, but just basically a transaction is about 40 hours, and half of those
Yeah.
hours are functionary hours, filling out the paperwork, opening the doors, scheduling the inspections, right? And so if I get leverage, hey, I'm only spending 20 hours as a fiduciary. If I get leverage, I could significantly increase the time I'm spent being a fiduciary, consulting, providing market information, and work less.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then just so perspective, to put it into there, share us a little, how many transactions have you guys done in the last few years? Like, what does the team look like now?
Yeah, so we have four producing agents, and then myself, I also produce. I'm usually between 30 and 40 units myself, with full-time listing manager. We have we hired this person on our team, Lori, who's kind of, I just recently gave her a title. She's one of those people I actually used to work with her when she was in real estate before kids, like 14 years ago. And she's just one of those like high execution people. So she's been an amazing impact on our business. And we used to call her the success manager because we didn't really know what to call her because she just came in and started just getting things done, all the stuff we couldn't get to. So we kind of call her the marketing operations coordinator now is her formal title. And she helps us roll out everything from she's actually putting up signs and then she does a lot of our social media marketing, letters to neighborhoods when we're doing our farming and stuff like that, and all the little pieces in between special events and everything from there. My wife runs the operations, and then we have a transaction coordinator that essentially he works remote in Florida. He's someone that I'm hoping to eventually have full time on our team. But he's an amazing person that does document management and transaction coordination for us. And we're doing on average a little over 100 units a year. I'm hoping this year we did a building down and systemizing and kind of rebalancing some of the SOPs for our team to hopefully take us to a little bit of a higher level this coming year.
Love that. So I want to walk through, that's a great question, Rob. We're gonna hit this in a second here. When we talked about what you're going to talk about today, you had a number of things you wanted to hit, which I loved. And you talked about how can we use market data, right, in any market to help your customers make decisions. So let's talk about, right, how are you using that for pricing and for offers and setting expectations with clients?
Yeah, so it's very like so it's kind of simple. When you look at so if we're gonna go use like going on a listing appointment, for example, right? You can show the trends of like what's going on in the market, what the kind of price reductions are happening or not, and days on market and everything from there. And you can balance in and really break down for that client like how to best position yourself and really start focusing on this is kind of from Jeff Glover is days on market is your enemy. And if you look at the trends of properties that actually or priced appropriately to the market are selling closer to their asking price or above, at least in our market. And ones that started too high and start chasing the market, and then the percentage that it drops down. And the National Association of Realtors just published like pretty awesome information about price reductions. So they have this thing that just came out in like the first 0 to 14 days. It was like a 4.9% cut and then a 6% cut, and it keeps going, going, going. So if you start walking someone through saying, hey, here's the danger of overpricing, and this is what this means. And our average sales price is $500,000 in our area. So a 5% cut is 25 grand. Like that's pretty major for a lot of families to lose 25 grand, right? And then it's what is you like, so when we look at our team and we talk about how we advise people, how we structure them to guide people in listing their homes, like we have a pretty tight list to sale ratio. We're pretty basically 100%. You always have your properties that go below and ones that go above, but on average, we're about 100% list to sale ratio.
Awesome. And so what do you credit that for? Are you just communicating that data more effectively, or do you think you're doing a better job of analyzing the data? Like, hey, we're experts at running the CMA, the comparative market analysis, and pulling comps and making adjustments, or better at interpreting the data for the clients?
So I think, I mean, we're really good at that part. I think the other part that is important to note is we really get into understanding the client and then also not telling them what they want to hear and then having that harder conversation about where they want to go and then what risk level they want to take in selling their home, right? So it
Gotcha.
all comes back to that. So it's trying to get that understanding of their motivation and then
Hmm.
where their risk tolerance is to if they want to test the market or not test the market, and then being confident enough to say, hey, this is what the data, the market, what we're seeing on a daily basis, being involved in high volume of transactions in our small local region, and what we're seeing buyers and sellers interact in negotiations, and this is why we feel you should be at X.
So you've done over 600 transactions in the last 5 years. What's how much transaction volume are you? What percentage of that is of your market?
Is in our market.
Like, yeah, how many sales
Yeah.
are go happen in your market annually?
Oh, annually. So there are, what was it, 630 something homes sold in our area last year.
Okay. Wow.
So yeah, it's small. We basically call the Sunapee region where I work like
Yep.
16 towns that we focus on, and we're a little over 6% market share in our town
How
or our
much?
region. 6%, a little over 6%.
6%, 6% market
So
share.
yeah,
Awesome. So I wanted to walk through of like getting there because what you're talking about was a very intuitive approach to this. And it's oh, I here's this credibility. We've done 600 transactions over the last 5 years. Here's what we've seen. Here's what we're conveying. So to work this backwards, where's most of your business coming from for context? Like, where are you attracting this business?
yeah. So a lot of it is, I mean, I've been in the area for a long time, so
Yep.
a lot of referral business. We get a lot of actually pretty core components coming from our website. So Christina is kind of our operations person. She has a huge content strategy plan. So we have multiple blog posts per month that dive deep into stats and community happenings and everything like that. And then it goes even deeper from when she's working with our web company. She meets with them every 2 weeks to look at our content strategy, our SEO strategy, and then
Hmm.
optimizing all of our content to be more optimized for AI and how best to have it that readability to get better
Hmm.
authority with AI to jump up from there. So we get a lot of that business coming from there. We also and our we have like if you look in our town, like we have I don't know, we just got another review. I think we're at close to 135 reviews on Google, and I think our closest competitor has like 12,
I
20. I don't know, something like
I, I
so
love I love to hear it, right? So what we're
yeah,
talking about is the 4C strategy that we talk about here at Grid, right? We're creating content that leads to conversations, that creates connection, that converts to a closing. Those are our four
yeah,
C's. And so Dan is like a subject matter expert who's there in the market, right? But has built the tools, he's doing this deliberately and systematically, right? It's not just accidental. Hey, we've got a blog post. Hey, Dan's a great salesman, so we married up. High five, Dan, right? So I've got a brilliant wife who's optimizing my search engine optimization, right? And we're diving in,
yeah.
we're being intentional, and we're looking at the data there, and then we're communicating that data over time. So we're building like there's some subject matter expertise. Lauren, jump on. Let's hear this. Lauren wanted to ask on this if we could walk through like a common objection you might get when you're trying to talk to someone about the data. Let's make this like
Yeah.
real and tangible. Dan had no idea we're doing this, but I know he's got this covered.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Yeah, I'm sure a common objection you get is what? But no, Dan, I want to price it at 525. My neighbor got that 3 years ago. That's what I want.
Absolutely. And Lauren, what was my original number that I proposed to you?
500.
500. Awesome. I can totally appreciate, Lauren, how that number and seeing your neighbor's data that happened. We track the market by the moment and we look at closed sales, as I mentioned. We go back a few months to see what happened, but then that's really old data. So the other point that you don't really see in our market is the pending inventory and what negotiations happened there. And there's a house just down the road from you. And I talked to the agent before I came here and I found out that they had like no showings. They had one person come in, this one offer that came in, and that was it. There wasn't multiple offers or anything like that. And I can tell you in other negotiations from my office in the area that we're seeing a lot of properties sell for less than their asking price, right? And buyers are seeing things that have, once you go over 2 weeks on the market, they're saying, oh, this is an opportunity. I can go harder in my negotiations and stand my ground and not overpay. So the reason that we are trying to position you at a more conservative price is that we want someone to come in at your asking price or above so they feel pressure from the market. It's the psychology of stressing that buyer out so they drive the price up and then you just say, yes, I'll take all your money and this is great. Versus, waiting and saying, oh, I hope those people come and they realize I want to work with them. But $25,000 is a lot of money right now. So does that help at all?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, awesome.
That's good.
Here's the paper. No, I don't do
Yeah.
that.
Rest
Is
here.
there any other objection that you get a lot that you feel like you have that script nailed? I think sometimes hearing scripts is
Yeah.
super helpful to just like cement these
Yeah,
ideas.
our
So,
team does conversation. We call it conversation practice every Thursday morning, and
uh,
we role play out every little thing. So, um, on the selling end, I mean, some of the times we end up going, and this is like a deeper one, is we do dual agency in New Hampshire. Some states don't, some states do. So there is a component of like my whole team's on our listing contract, and we sell a lot of houses, so we end up interacting in a lot of dual agency scenarios. I think close to 20 something percent of our sales end up being dual agency.
mm,
And so sometimes people get really like, how can you represent me? And you're my fiduciary, and then they're their fiduciary. Like, how does this work? And so that's a common pushback that we get. And I can just go right into like, so the reason that I understand how you might feel that this doesn't work. That, you know, at the end of the day, my role and responsibility is to help you make a good decision about any offers that come in. I can't tell you exactly what price to counter, but prior to listing your home, we're having a negotiation meeting to talk about likely scenarios of offers that may come in and how we may or may not respond to those offers. We've also talked about, you know, what your bottom line number is and what your comfort zone is there. I obviously cannot share that information with anybody. And at the end of the day, when the offer comes in, I can still advise you on what creates risk, minimizes risk, what other negotiation tactics people have used in these scenarios to best insulate their wants, needs, and risk tolerance in a transaction. On the buy side, my team member over there, Jason, he's going to do the same thing with his client based upon their needs. Two people generally don't have the same risk profile, wants, and needs. So every offer that comes in, everybody's going to have a different risk profile of what they're willing to take on in the purchase of your home and what's important to them. And so we're here to make sure that you feel comfortable in the decision you're making. And if you're not comfortable at all, we don't have to go forward. And that's no problem at all. Something like
so
that is what tends to happen.
How do you help people you've mentioned this word a couple times and I love it. How do you help people self-discover their risk profile?
Let's see. Try to understand like the motivation of what they're going. Like, where are
Yep.
they trying to go? What does that money mean to them? What does life look like if we get to here? What does life look like if we don't get to there? I attended a class, KW Talent, and they had a speaker for that's trained and works with Phil Jones, and it was the 9 conversation perspectives. And I'm still like, this is like on my short list. Yes, exactly what to say. The
This
nine
is
conversation perspectives is something that is like my short term goal to like just immerse myself in it this year, because the way that she walked us through the framework of these conversations and how to the psychology behind it was just fascinating. And I'm not adept at it right now, so I can't walk
hmm
through it smoothly. But it was like one of my biggest takeaways was like, oh damn, like this is so good from a client perspective. This is so good from a leader perspective. The applications of it were amazing. And so that's on my like super short list of internalizing and trying to figure out how to work into my daily workflow when dealing with everybody.
Any other questions, Lauren? Do you feel the warm and fuzzies would work with Dan?
I
Awesome.
I have a question, Justin, for Dan.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Can you see me?
I can see
Hey,
you.
Dan. Okay,
Hey.
Dan. Thank you so much. I love the talk track. I track the market to the moment. Like for everybody listening, like that talk track is like it's a powerful talk track. So thank you for that. What I heard you say initially was it took you really 10 years to cement. I don't want to use the word success, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it took 10 years for you to really develop the muscle of like understanding the business. Is that accurate? It sounded like it was a journey, a 10-year journey of like real hardship. Is that fair? Or
Yeah.
did I mishear?
It was hard, right? So I'm in a small community. Um, there's not a lot of people that do investing. There's not a lot of people that talk about real estate at a high level. So when I ended up in the brokerage that I'm currently at, it was like this huge light bulb went off. And I actually got really frustrated and kind of pissed off because I was like, what the hell? This is all here, and no one around me is talking about this. And I got really frustrated how small I let my world get. And so that was like a massive aha. And like I sort of regretted it, and I sort of didn't because at the time, as I was going through this struggle of building my business and career, I kept trying to. I got good, right? I was like all of us after a certain period of time, we get good and we feel confident and all that jazz. And then things get to a certain level of normalcy where you're like, I have just another buyer, it's another seller. I've been through the situation. You've been through hundreds of transactions, right? You get that comfort zone. And I was like, well, how else do I sharpen my skill set? How else do I become a better person? How else do I make myself uncomfortable? Right. And so then I was like, all right, well, I should get into leadership or something like that. So I joined the Chamber of Commerce. I became president of that. Um, Leading a bunch of volunteers is incredibly hard. So like it's and I ran scenarios there from a management perspective. I was like, oh God, this is what I'm doing. Like, wow, it was really fascinating. And then I also volunteered at our state association of realtors for a very, very, very long time. And
Mhm.
ended up getting into leadership there and became president of our state association as well. And it was again throwing into the realm of how else do I put myself in situations to help my skills develop, to grow the room that I'm in, things of that nature. And it was an incredibly rewarding role that I was in. I feel very happy about it. I had a couple of benchmarks that were important. What the biggest one was we've had a lot of older presidents, and I was not the youngest, but one of the younger presidents that our state had had. And I was hell bent not to have my business go down, and our business grew during my year as president. And I was pretty involved and went all over the place. And I was like, nope, you can have this position and continue having a successful career, and you don't have to take a financial hit in that role. So that was super important to me. Um, and that's a whole nother level of volunteer leadership of trying to take agents that are focused on their personal lives and their personal business, and then saying, no, you need to, this is important to lean into to really understand how to protect home ownership. And this is why this association is here. And this is why we're doing the things for you on behalf of your needs. So I know there's a lot of stuff with NAR and everything, but from a local association perspective, like our state is amazing. Like I remember being in a room, all of presidents and president elects at I think it was a mid-year conference, and everyone was talking about short-term rentals and the bans and all this stuff. And all these leaders were like, no, not a single person was touching fighting back in their states. They were like, they didn't want to touch it with a 2-foot pole. And we took a town to the Supreme Court and won and sued them for prohibiting private property rights. So like we have a really amazing state association that's super active and super supportive of housing. So it was just awesome to be part of that.
I,
Dan, my question, because I know that there's somebody listening right now that is in that struggle journey phase. And I want to know what got you through. Like, I'm always curious about the psychology of the human. What got you through that time where you were like, okay, this is hard, this is a challenge? Like, what was the why that was pulling you forward, right? Or what was the fuel that 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 carried you forward? Because I think it's important. Tactics are important, but but energy and thinking is what directs us, to
Yeah.
be successful in this business. So I'm just curious, what was it for you? What was the thing?
Sure. I'll give you a little more of the hardship story. Um,
Sure.
so literally for a while, like ramping up and like it was tough. Like after my dad passed and everything, there's a lot of other things that going on in life and people passing and all sorts of stuff. But like life was really, really hard. And I was doing the credit card balance transfer game. So I was like, I'm giving myself a loan so I can grow my business because I don't really have a business that a bank will give me like a line of credit. So I'm giving myself a personal line of credit. And I was doing the 3% transfer fee and like, oh my God, it was awful. And so I was doing that, and then my wife was working in the tech industry at the time, doing some PR and marketing and everything. And she was making more money than I was. And she's like, "Dude, are you going to generate an income? Like, what is going on?" I'm like, "It's going to happen." She's like, "You should put your resume in with a temp agency." I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so not giving up." So she made me put it in with a temp agency, and I was like, "Oh, you son of a!" And so I just like I don't know. That might have been the most. 'Cause that year, I think I made like 90 grand or something like that. And I was just like, And that's when it all, I don't know what it was about that extra little kick of fire, but I was like, no, man, like this is gonna work. And I had some cool things come together. But it was this also was this compounding of not giving up on consistency, right? So I was, and we do it, we still do it today, although my Christina's now writing the articles for our monthly stats and stuff like that. But back in SEO strategy, back in the day, like creating content and keywords and everything were really, really important, right? So I would do the monthly stats for our region and list out all the sales for all 16 towns on a regular basis with an analysis above. So it'd be like 123 Main Street, New London, New Hampshire sold, $300,000 or whatever the price was. And so you type in anything. This is pre the popularity of Google of Zillow, and like my website would show up with that sale that occurred because it wasn't listed anywhere else. And so we've continued that trend since 2005. And so I've stayed on that, got really creative with growing my network and partnering with lenders and doing some co-op marketing online I mean, this is back like, I don't know if you guys remember like Home Gain. I was doing like ads through Home Gain and all these different lead aggregators. All that kind of stuff to try to funnel things in. I wasn't even allowed like lead time at the office for like 6 months when I first got started. So I was just live there. I drive my 45 minutes to the office, park my ass there, and hope that somebody would be too busy to talk to somebody so that I could actually get floor time, get a lead that came in during someone's floor time when someone was too busy to do something. Like it was definitely it was a lot. And then really just not caring is the other part, like being willing to walk away from a commission if it's not for the right reason. So even though I was broke and building this business at the time, like had to also not care if they didn't buy the house. Like it wasn't really even back then I had the core component of like, I don't like, it has to be the right reason as much as I need the money. Like I'm not buying the house. Like, so is this going to work for you? Is it not going to work for you? And continue to go deeper in that. And people can tell if you're genuine or you're out, if you're chasing a paycheck. And I think chasing a paycheck is the worst position to ever be in. And the further you can put the paycheck chase behind you and not bring it to your interactions with people, you're going to have incredible success because they feel that pressure from you. So if you can really like meditate, do whatever, clear your head before you go into those interactions and really have that framework of, all right, what's in it for the client? How do I best advise and serve them, etc.
Hey, Dan, I was just going to say, people can feel your intent. Thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah, no
Chris,
problem.
give me 1 second. I know you got a question. So, when we talk about the journey, I thought one thing to double click on here, right, is Dan said even from the beginning, it was important to come in with ethics, right? John Maxwell, there's no such thing as business ethics, there's only ethics, right? And then he talked about growing his leadership lid. He didn't say, hey man, I think I could build more of a presence and I could drive more business to my team if I went and got in these leadership organizations. I got in these leadership organizations because I want to grow as a leader. And I think the team was a natural outgrowth of that because Rob had some questions about growing the team. So just double clicking, this is like this journey. And this is why Dan's here talking to us. Is I just had like the greatest conversation with Dan where I was like, man, I really like this guy. Like we're just what he's talking about and building and leading. These are the journeys that I like of like there are people that lead big organizations because they have a big heart for people. And those organizations that are massively successful. Chris is one of those guys. Chris, if you're still there, I know you had a question. I don't know if you jumped off or not. Yeah, what's your question, bud?
Like, I gotta jump in 1 second, but Dan, this is great. Love your story, man. Curious, how has being a part of the chamber helped you? Like, has that been like a big source of business, or has that been more of a just giving back to the community? I'm just curious whether that's been had a big ROI or whether that's more of a kind of charity time.
Yeah, I think for me, it had a big ROI. So it was about visibility. Like when I got started in real estate, I looked like I was 12. I hadn't even started shaving yet. I mean, I was 24 and a half or something. Like, I was pretty young. And I think it was crap, I can't remember when it was, but it was somewhere before 2010 that I became president and stuff like that and was involved in the chamber. It's about that human interaction. So the more people that you're around that you don't have a connection with, the better, right? So how do I put myself in front of more humans in an intentional way and bring value, right? So joining committees, giving back, then joining the board. And then at the time with the chamber, like it was still very focused on like whoever's in that leadership role was very visible in the community. So like we'd have our annual awards or annual banquet dinner, whatever, and we'd have like 120 people would come. And I'd have to present in front of over 100 people talking about the success and initiatives and things that happened with the chamber and why we're here and so forth and so on. And so those are, I knew a lot of people in the room, but I fast tracked my face and recognition in our small community in front of all these people. So I've had referrals from it. I have probably had plenty of business that have come in over the years that might not be tied directly to it, but you're building up trust in the community and recognition, right? So it's a combination of building the authenticity of you as a leader in the community and a successful business person in the community. So when they call, they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, you did this for the chamber. We saw you, or I interacted with you, and it was a good experience. I figured when I was going to sell my house, I had to, I probably should give you a call." Or I told Susie down the street that she needed to call you because I really like what you had to say, or really like the last interaction that we had.
Dan, that's great. And what I'm thinking of is what Matt had shared when he came. He said there was like three things you have to do is you have to get to a database, then you have to figure out how to add value to the database, then you have to figure out how to add people to the database. We sometimes do that like on an individual basis, but like I think we can all see, hey, if I go be the president of the chamber and add value to the community, I am running that play at the highest level, right? And Dan's
Yeah.
been able to. Do you want to talk about what you shared with me, kind of like your annual charity event for the community, which I
Yeah,
think probably grew out of some of this work with the chamber, et cetera. Now it makes more sense. I was like, how did he pull this thing off? I get it now. Like you probably had some structure to operate in. But yeah, tell us about
absolutely.
this is what got me excited to come here. Tell us about what you do every year as your big kind of giving back to the community event.
Absolutely. And I just want to highlight a couple things on content. So the cool thing with the content that we're creating is our agents always have an excuse multiple times a month to reach out to their database. So they're not wondering, oh, what do I say? There's no new listings. Like, oh no, here's the latest market stats, or here's everything to do in the wintertime with your kids, or here's this event that's happening, or here's the live music that's going on locally, those
Go
kinds of
look at
things.
the
Um,
blog because and we're gonna come back to the blog here in a second because Arturo actually we do it right now.
yeah.
Arturo wanted to know like how are you using AI on that blog? Are you using AI to opt SEO for SEO on it? Are you
So this is going to be a Christina question for sure. But
perfect?
she's analyzing the framework of how some of the writing has happened, and the way that AI likes to analyze information, and then
Yep,
structuring the content to fit that format a lot tighter. And so it makes that readability more consistent and easier for the AI machines to do what they need to do.
beautiful. I got it. Oh yeah, that's
So
genius. That's genius. So we're reverse engineering this back. So instead of SEO optimization, we're talking about AI optimization.
yeah,
How do I make it when people are using AI as a search engine, they are naturally finding our hyper local. Go read the blog. It was awesome. I looked in here and I was like, here is 30 things to do. Here's the Children's Museum. Like these are good, tight, like we scanned it while we were on the call here today. So you're doing that. And then how is that converting to
yeah.
business? Is there a call to action on the blog or is that just like a passive people are reaching out to
Yep. There's call to action on the blog. There's connect with our team. I can't remember exactly what we have.
you? Sure.
Every single post has a way for people to connect to our team and stuff like that. And we get plenty. We have people that aren't ready to sell yet, and they like literally they tell all their friends like you have to go to the Howler Group's website. They have everything you need to know what's happening locally. So we actually I think have better content than maybe our team sometimes. But we have a lot of like very localized, high touch information on there for our community
Awesome.
and want to be seen as community leaders. So, and then
Perfect.
you will probably want me to get into that the charity thing.
Yeah, let's talk about
Um, so our market, just so you guys know, is like super slow in the first quarter. So it's all about like getting that momentum and traction to really, have an awesome start to like entire year, right? But everything starts in that first quarter. And I can tell you, like last year, we fell flat. We didn't have the right activities. We didn't prioritize things the way we were supposed to in the first quarter. So our first quarter was terrible. And then we played catch up the rest of the year, right? And so, but the ways that we try to insulate ourselves on some of this is obviously the content side of things. And then we've all been on different boards and things like that. And sometimes boards are really big and you just can't go forward at the speed and tenacity that you really want. And so we hit a frustration point years back in 20, it was actually 2019 before COVID. And we started talking about like, what can we do for an event to give back? And then we can just have total control. And we like giving back to our community, but how do we do this in a more fun way to do that? And then a friend of mine, Adam Dow, who would be a good person to have on your podcast. He's number one agent in New Hampshire, like huge team. Anyways, he started a thing called the 1K. And I was like, that's hilarious. And Adam and I are good friends, and I like to joke with him a lot. And I was like, Adam, like I love this 1K thing. Like, would it be okay if we did this? And he's like, yeah, that's cool. We're ebbing and flowing on doing it. And I was like, all right. So I went online and I went to GoDaddy, and Ultra 1K was available. And just so you guys know, 1K is like 0.62 miles, 3,280 feet. So really not a huge distance. And I was like, all right, well, this is kind of awesome. I can one up Adam, and we're just gonna do an Ultra 1K because that's obviously way better than what Adam's doing. And so we leaned in, and my wife is incredible, and we have a really good graphic designer. So we created the website ultra1k.com that has everything about our event. And we started, it was going to be in person, and then COVID happened. So when that happened, we were like, crap, we still need to do this somehow, some way. And in May, it starts getting nicer out in our area finally. So you start seeing green, people start spending more time outside. So we really thought about this event of how do we engage our community, get them outside, and also give back. So what's kind of neat about this is our first year we raised like $8,000. Now we're consistently raising over $20,000 every year. We have routes that all of our team members have picked. So if you do all like 6 routes in our area, which is getting people outside and exploring our region, you get entered into one like $250 to one of the nice restaurants in town. There's competitions for the fastest and slowest 1Ks. Like it's really just a way of getting people together to come outside and have some fun and in the month of May. And so it's digital. You guys could all participate if you want. $10 to register. And you literally just use a tracking app, anything that you want, join the Facebook group, and you post your results. And it's also a great excuse to take a client for a walk and go on one of the 1K walks. So we do a lot of that. So it makes us highly visible in our community as well. So we're, pretty much shouting from the rooftops about the 1K starting in April, all the way through 2 weeks into June, as we wrap everything up. So that's been super rewarding. We give all the money back to our food pantries. There's 3 pantries we support that basically those 3 pantries give back to the our whole entire community that we serve. So it was a way to cover all the towns.
I love this. I love that you have individual 1K routes too. Are these agents on your team?
Yep. Yeah. Lori's an agent. Brandy's our listing manager.
Yep.
And that's her route there. Yeah. And then we have them all tied to Strava routes.
The other thing, I don't know if anybody's still playing this SEO blog game. We all used to do this. This is the early, hyper local content, right? This is a play that Rob ran at a really high level. When I met Rob, it was not about investing. It was because he was talking about psychographic, hyper local marketing. Hey, sorry, Simon's waving at me. Corey's got his hello on here. I got distracted by a baby. I get crazy get crazy about puppies. But if you go look at that, go look at the detail. Like every one of those routes, it's keyword dense, it's highly descriptive, it's mentioning local geographic areas. Like this is all stuff like I've learned a ton about, right? The New London and how do I pronounce this correctly? The Sunapee?
Sunapee. Sunapee.
Yeah,
Yep.
like the Sunapee area of New Hampshire, just like being on this call, like this is a natural extension. So we had a couple of questions as we were going on there. How did you go? Walk us through how do you scale the team? How do you go from 30 to 100 transactions? Like, and what's the biggest challenge you had in doing this?
So I think the biggest challenge is responsibility. Well, actually, okay. So the biggest challenge is actually removing myself from transactions, honestly. I don't work with as many buyers as I used to back in the day. I still work with two or three a year, but like I used to do a hell of a lot more than that. And
Mhm.
so I'm doing interactions with the buyers oftentimes and then connecting them with our agents and working as a team. And then I end up not being point on that transaction, right? And it doesn't matter on the price point. And we deal with stuff up to $7 million in our area, and we deal with stuff for $20,000. Like we see every spectrum. And we basically my role is to generate business for our agents and support them in their growth. And also I service like my listing inventory is my main jam
Mhm.
that I do for business. But it was getting comfortable saying this is the person for you. And you should look at our latest review on Google right now that just came in yesterday. Jason Bell on our team, and this was someone that came to me, and I was like, "You need Jason because of what you're trying to accomplish. He is like I know a lot, probably second to Jason on land and development, but he's your guy that you really want for this." And he knocked it out of the friggin' park. And I was around, and I uncovered some opportunities that helped get them to the sale of what they bought, which was substantial. Um, but it was taking my mindset of I'm going to create this opportunity for him and for the client, and it's going to be amazing for them. And I don't need to be point, and I don't need the entire commission. It's not about that. It's about that growth and having that core to myself and my wife and I understanding that if we give back, it's going to give back to us
Mhm.
and to our clients. And so, but being able to give back, it was not smooth at first when we started doing this of like, here you go work this lead. And then if they don't work it, then there's a lot of frustration and challenge there. So since then, we've created structure and standards of communication. And we use Follow Boss for our CRM. So they have to clear their smart list by Friday every single week. They have we're pretty low on the accountability for like calls and stuff like that. We're trying to get better at that. So we have like a 5 call a day. You have to report out, and then they report out on Mondays of, contracts written, amount of calls, communication, stuff like that. And we're all tracking it together as a team to keep it visual. But that is getting to that point of like accountability without fear and without judgment of just saying, hey, this is where you want to go, we're going to help build you here. We do a GPS or a 135 every year. It's your goal, your three priorities, and then your strategies, 5 strategies for each priority. And we do that every single year with our agents to really understand where they want to go. We want to go certain places as a business. They want to go certain places as in their lives. And so our plan is to really help them get where they want to go. And then that helps us understand what we have to add in as a business to continue our journey for where we want to get to. And we also make them do a personal GPS as well. So again, we will freak out at them if they don't take vacations and take time off. So
No, that's awesome. And if you don't know what a GPS is, Maria covered that right in her most recent session. She went into that. Tons of training online, by the way. Hit us up. I'm happy to point you in the direction of it's a really great framework. Um, the biggest thing I'm taking away from listening to you, Dan, is you've built a business where the sum is greater, like the sum is greater than the individual parts because it's a community focused team, even having them own their routes and right post about these
yeah,
things individually, you've created something um uh you've created something where like it's synergistic, where I could see how if I joined your team, I don't have this fear of, oh my gosh, there's this finite number of leads. It's like, no, you can go, there's not a finite number of great things to do in this town.
yeah, and we can generate plenty of business for a new agent, absolutely, from day one to get them going. The amount of times I've done that too, when people have joined to make sure they have a sale right away, I can't even count.
Yeah.
And I'll do most of the work, like as they're learning and coming through, but I'm not taking a different commission. I just want them to be successful. So.
What, with the market potentially shifting, I don't know how your market's reacted. I just feel like every week there's different economic news, right? Hey, we're going to buy a massive amount of mortgage-backed securities and rates drop down and then rates rapidly recorrect and, right? Date the marry the house, date the rate, and stuff
Yeah.
not dropping. Like, how are you communicating these, like through a market shift? What's your framework to communicate with clients about what's happening in the market?
I think it goes to that regular communication that we have. So
Okay.
it's honestly keeping them apprised of the fluctuations in the market. We're still very fortunate where we are in regards to like our days on markets. Like if priced right, it's like 14 days.
Gotcha.
We're still in a strong seller's market, but it's softening. So buyers are negotiating a bit more. We're seeing more inspections happen, inspections without inspection buffers. So like that's been interesting to start tracking and seeing. Even in multiple offer situations where we've a bunch of times have actually seen people, we've had like 4 or 5 offers and everyone's having inspections versus waiving them or anything like that. So that's been kind of an interesting trend to see post the COVID frenzy that was going on.
Hmm.
I think the core of it, and like any market shift, and I've been there, is understanding that you as an agent have to work even harder, but a little bit smarter in your communication and what you do to get the most out. I think Gary Keller's book Shift is a really good one to help kind of get your mindset and framework around the activities that you have to do. But with clients, it's honestly it's communication, it's consistent communication and being there for them. So if you have a property that's sitting on the market for a long time and you're trying to figure out what to do, honestly, sometimes just calling and checking in on them is really good. They need to hear your voice, so don't be scared to call them and just say, "Hey, I don't have anything new to report, but I just want to check in with you guys, see if you need anything. Here's, we're gonna have our next market report coming out. Here's some other options that are going on." Or you're gonna revisit a price reduction conversation that you might have had in the beginning when you started the process, knowing the market, right? And usually it's like, hey, the first week the market's going to tell us, are we in alignment or are we not? After that first week, you're saying, all right, hey, we heard the proverbial cricket, so we're not hearing the noise that we want to hear from the market. Buyers have said we're not in alignment with their needs, so we have to quickly make adjustments to catch back up. Do you remember that chart I showed you about the time on market and the percent from list price to sales price changes that have occurred? You do? Great. So this is where we are. We definitely don't want to get here where it says 10%. So we need to make adjustments really quickly to get back into alignment with what's going on. And that's really crucial conversations to have when you have someone on the market for a long period of time or looking like it's going to be on for a long time. And then don't forget to call agents in your marketplace. Like this is one of the things core to me is agent to agent relationships. We're an amazing business where we have to compete and collaborate. And those agents, even though you compete with them, can be a massive resource for you in growing your business because they have data you don't have. They have a property that just went under contract. Call them up and be like, Joe, tell me about like how many showings did you guys have? Did you just have one offer? Did you have multiple offers? I know you can't tell me the exact price, but are you at or below asking price? See what kind of data you can glean because that's information that's nowhere in the market. Zillow doesn't have it. Redfin doesn't have it.
Mhm.
No one has it, right? And then you can go to your seller like, hey, I was talking to an agent down the road for that house we talked about that we're competing with. This is the activity that they had. And we all did professional photos. We all did floor plans. We all did the stuff. But this is what they had. And this is why I think they had it because of XYZ,
So
right? And
that's an amazing takeaway I had from you was just walking in using pending data to talk about the market at the moment because you've actually called, which is, I think, you nailed it. Like the competition can't do that. No one else can do that. Like agents don't give that information to the public, but they will share
yeah.
it with another agent. Um, do you go back and call solds as well and get and dig into like the story as well?
Sometimes, yeah. If I'm really struggling with pricing and trying to understand stuff, I even will call like local appraisers that we deal with a lot too. Like, I'm really struggling on this one. Like, I know, like, and dive into some stuff there too and see what they're seeing.
Yep.
I think the more information you can glean to give you confidence in whatever you're recommending, the better. And then you can use that information as a story to help build the validity of how you're advising.
What should I have asked you about that I didn't ask you about, Dan, as we're wrapping up?
Okay, two things. Um, Culture and team and vacations. I
Okay.
think are super important. So we really, I mentioned earlier, push our agents to take vacations. The thing that I didn't get to say is when they go on vacations, they don't have to worry about anything. We're not doing different splits. They're not paying anyone else. They go on vacation. Our whole team is like goal is to try to sell something from them from their database, if possible. And it's happened multiple times. And no one has their hands out, right? So it's that culture of safety and security that they can go away and know their team has their back and they're not going to lose business by going on a vacation.
So like
And
a
that
pay
to
it
me has
forward.
been so huge.
I love it,
Yeah,
right? Pay it forward, lead from the front. Hey, I'm gonna take care of Dan, and then I know when I go, Cherie's gonna take care of me.
exactly.
Awesome. I love that.
That part's
Anybody
huge.
anybody have an amazing question? No pressure to end this on. Just like the greatest question of all time to ask Dan as we wrap up here. Okay. Dan, how can we connect with you? And where do you service? Walk me through. I don't
Yeah.
know if you're from
Um,
New Hampshire.
So we're in New London, New Hampshire. Some people are familiar with like Dartmouth College. We're like 30 minutes south of Dartmouth College. We're a year-round vacation destination in between two employment sectors. So we call it the Upper Valley, which is Lebanon and Hanover up there, and then Concord, Manchester to our south. And each location is about 30 to 45 minutes from where our town is located in New London. And it's just an amazing place to live. So we have vacationers, retirees, and then year-round people. So it's kind of awesome. Our website's ohgrp.com. That's where all the best information is. And you guys can reach out to me anytime you want, for sure. I love talking real estate and talking to amazing people that are really motivated.
Awesome. What's your goal for this year? What's
So we haven't broke 130 units and I want over 130 units and it's driving me out of my mind. I really actually want over 150, but like, trying to be realistic. And we have to bring on a couple of new people to our team. So part of it is bringing on a couple agents to our team, whether brand new or already producing, and then getting our sales growth over 130 units for sure.
awesome. Um, go check out what Dan is doing. It is really exciting. Look at that Ultra 1K site. It's Ultra 1K, just like it sounds, the number one, the letter K. Pretty fascinating. Like, because what I think Dan really it amazed me is like there's a system for everything. There's only three ways to get business: prospecting, networking, marketing. And if you are networking based, if you are sphere based, there are still systems and processes and accountability, right? There's a structure to doing that, like and a rhythm to doing that, right? Dan, I love that where you're like
Yeah.
coaching folks up, like, hey, how many conversations are we having about the Ultra 1K? Like, hey, what are you doing?
Mhm.
What kind of content are you creating around these? Right. And then
Well, and giving them confidence in how they're having those conversations, right? So agents that don't know the right words to say or stumble or don't have that confidence and aren't going to have that high quality
yeah.
conversion, right? So it's really leaning into that training and having role play and going over into the details. And role play is a weird thing. Like I fought that forever. And we leaned into it a few years back, and it's been one of the best things we ever did, especially with a lot of the changes that came down the pipe. So,
So I guess the one thing that, and this is going to go over slightly, but I think it's too important not to skip is, do you have to stepping into a leadership role in your community can be really uncomfortable because I'm just a realtor, if they don't want to buy and sell, why do they want to hear from me? Right? What am I going to call my
mhm.
database about? None of them want to move. Like, and so I would imagine you call it conversation practice, right?
Yeah.
What's the biggest unlock in the conversation practice if you're running like a sphere-based business? Like, what's the thing that like unlocks it for people? What's that conversation that really gets them to go, okay, cool. Yeah, I can go call five people that I know and I don't feel like I'm crawling out of my skin.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it's like calling past clients. So you're not calling saying like identifying, I know they might want to sell. It's like, no, you're calling to check in. How are they doing? How can you bring, have you done renovations? Do you need a contractor? Are you aware of the New Hampshire energy audit program that saves you 75% of your reinstallation costs up to $6,000? Oh, and they have $15,000 at 0%. Like, are you having those conversations? And then if they're not, we're training how to have those conversations, making sure they're confident in that data and that information so they're just calling, it's like care call. You're just checking in to see how they're doing.
I love it.
Um, and going
So
from there.
it's a care call, but I'm also calling, I'm empowered with a toolkit where I can take this someplace
Yeah.
beyond like, no, I don't need anything. Well, hey, what about this? What about the energy audit?
Yeah.
What about our
Maybe I
renovation?
didn't mention it to you, or you forgot that I mentioned to you when you bought your house.
Cool.
Like, or did you do this yet? I know I mentioned it. Did you forget? Like, this is a huge savings for your home, yada yada.
I love it. Thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate you
No
starting
problem.
your Tuesday with us. It's been fantastic having you here.